House.
The question is that the amendment be disagreed to, and I call the honourable member for Blair.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I'm pleased to speak on the Nature Repair Market Bill 2023 and the Nature Repair Market Consequential Amendments Bill 2023 as well. Somewhere between Prime Minister John Howard and Prime Minister Tony Abbott, the Liberal Party and National Party stopped believing in markets. They once believed in taking action on climate change by pricing carbon. I listened carefully to those opposite all the way through this debate, constantly railing against the concept of a market. This is the Liberal and National parties that claim they're the parties of private enterprise and the market. But it's the Labor Party who wants to take action on climate change through the safeguard mechanism. We did when we were last in government. It's the Labor Party, through this particular legislation before the chamber, is wanting to engage in nature repair through a market-based mechanism. But those opposite can't bring themselves to believe in the market, which is a great irony for the party of Menzies and the party of Fraser and Howard. That the Liberal and National parties somehow cannot believe in the market and cannot believe in taking action to create a market. Yet, when they were in government previously, legislation not dissimilar to this was something that they once believed in. They've had a sort of Damascus Road conversion experience in reverse on this particular legislation in the last 12 months or so, but on taking action on the environment and taking action on carbon pollution by using a market mechanism somewhere in the last decade and a half. Somewhere they did it. They lost their faith in the market. So we're the Labor Party, the party of the collective and solidarity. We're the party of the market. And this particular legislation is taking action on the environment and nature repair using a market-based mechanism. So for those who listen, when you hear the platitudes and the sermonising from those opposite about the market, look at what they actually do and how they actually vote, rather than what they say. Actions speak a lot louder than words when it comes to those opposite. The Albanese Labor Government wants to make it easier for people to invest in activities that help repair nature. To that end, this landmark legislation will create a national framework for a world's first voluntary national biodiversity market. We want to protect our environment from destruction. And those opposite, having lost the election and sitting all those teals and greens up there, having lost the election with seats held traditionally by the coalition, like Higgins and Bennelong, now held by Labor, those opposites still can't bring themselves to accept the outcome and the lessons in terms of taking action on the environment. It's our ambition for nature is very big. Just as the Hawke government established Landcare, we want to restore environments that have been impacted in the past and repair more of what's been damaged. And that's how we can build a truly nature-positive Australia, where we leave our environment in a better state for our children and our grandchildren. Australians want to live in a nature-positive country, a country that stops environmental decline and repairs nature, a country that prizes the Great Barrier Reef in my home state of Queensland, the beautiful rural areas in my electorate around the Somerset Dam and the Wivenhoe Dam, in rural areas around Ipswich as well. One of our government's most important priorities is to see new private initiative and private investment in our natural environment. We want to tap into that enterprise and creativity and harness it for the benefit of nature. We see enormous untapped potential here, and we're determined to help unleash it, not in the place of government action. Labor governments always take governmental action, but in addition to it, a partnership between governmental action and the private sector. And that's why with these bills we're legislating a world's first nature market, establishing the measurement, integrity and property rights necessary to properly reward the restoration and protection of biodiversity, working side by side with the carbon market. We want to support landholders to carry out activities that repair nature by establishing a world-leading nature repair market. In a world-first scheme, landowners will be able to be paid by a third party for protection and restoring nature on their land. It will make it easier for businesses, philanthropists and others to invest in repairing nature across our great land. The legislation establishes a scheme to incentivise private enterprise in nature restoration by creating tradable certificates for projects that protect and restore biodiversity. And this market forms part of our nature positive plan to protect more of what's precious, repair more of what's damaged, and then manage nature better for the future. This new market could realise billions of dollars of investment, complementing the existing carbon credit scheme while improving our environment. Indeed, as many people have talked about, recent reports, $137 billion this market could unlock to repair and protect Australia's environment by 2050. The credits would be generated, for example, by supporting landholders, including farmers, First Nations communities, to do things like replant a vital stretch of koala habitat, revive a critical nature corridor, repair damaged riverbeds, or remove invasive species. And examples of this include removing drainage ditches and excluding livestock and feral herbivores to restore a natural marsh which would create critical habitat for diverse native frog, fish, turtle and wetland bird species. Indigenous rangers undertake great work in terms of feral animal exclusion, buffalo grass removal, feral cat control and cultural burning in the Central Desert. And I've met Indigenous rangers all across the country, from the Kimberley to Maningrida in Northern Territory and in Central Australia and in my home state of Queensland. And I see the great work those Indigenous rangers do. The certificate generator for the project could support Indigenous rangers working on country for many years, restoring seagrass meadow permanently lost from historic poor catchment water quality, providing habitat for sea turtles, dugongs, and marine fish and seahorses. Monitoring could be provided by local commercial and recreational fishers who foresee increased local fish stocks. In my own community, 3 projects across Ipswich and the Somerset recently received federal government koala community grants to support recovery and protection of koalas, including by improving habitat. And I've had the pleasure of visiting 2 of these projects, the Koala Health and Habitat Rehabilitation in the Esk Somerset region project run by the Australian Earth Laws Alliance and Care for Esk, and the Purga Koala Habitat Restoration project being delivered by Forestland Management. And I'm really pleased to see the work and the research being undertaken in relation to those koala corridors around Glenrock in the Somerset region and around Purga and Peak Crossing around rural Ipswich in that koala corridor. These projects involve tree planting, habitat revegetation and weed eradication in known koala habitats, so it would be likely to generate biodiversity credits under the scheme. And I look forward to those opportunities in my local area. I also have a number of local land care organisations in my electorate across Ipswich, the Somerset region and the Corona Downs region. For example, Bremer Catchment Association have worked tirelessly to restore the banks of the Bremer River in central Ipswich, and I've seen around Cribb Park and other areas, and I've seen around Allora in the Scouts Place the work that was being done over the years, and around Basin Pocket with people like Darren Close and others who have been working in that area to restore the land and the vegetation and get rid of noxious weeds along the Bremer River. It's very important. I want to commend organisations like Westmoreton Landcare, who've made considerable progress in rehabilitating waterways and environmental corridors, particularly in places like Rosewood. The Rosewood Scrub Project, Mason's Gully restoration, right on the fringe of the urban areas, in residential areas of Rosewood near Cabanda Aged Care, a great place for people to go and walk. And the number of different species of plant that have been put back in that area. The work that's been done in terms of flood mitigation and restoration after the many floods that have impacted and the fires that have impacted the Ipswich and Westmoreton region, including the Somerset region. I want to thank also the Westmoreton Landcare for the great work in which they've undertaken in the Brisbane Valley Rail Trail around places like Lowood and the like. They've got considerable amount of funds that I've been seeking support for them on. And I want to also thank the Brisbane Valley Kilcoy Landcare Group for working with me on vegetation issues and tree planting in the upper part of the Brisbane Valley along the rail trail. They've done some great work also. They've been involved in rainforest restoration and recovery of koalas and ecological communities and species in southeast Queensland, up around Jimna in the state forest in the northern bit of my electorate as well. So these land care groups make a significant contribution to our local environment. And it'd be great to see their work recognised and captured by this nature repair market. I'm really excited about this. I think it's a great opportunity for those land care groups to partner. Finally, some of the traditional owners from the Ipswich region, including Uncle Henry Thompson Jr., who runs a local business providing Indigenous land conservation services and traditional fire techniques. And that's an opportunity I see for local First Nations people in the Ipswich region. In my electorate, about 5.5% of our population are First Nations, so it's a growing part of the electorate. And I think this would be terrific, and I see a lot of synergies between the work that's been done by people like Henry Thompson and the land care groups and the work that they do together. This new market will be regulated. It will have a clean energy regulator, will be regulated by that particular organisation, will be able to be monitored and enforcement powers to the regulator to ensure projects are conducted in accordance with rules. It just won't be willy-nilly open slab. There will be monitoring, reporting, notification and of delivery of projects and activities on environmental outcomes. An independent committee will provide advice to the minister about the methods to set the rules for the projects. Creating a nature repair market with proper integrity and transparency will give business, philanthropists, local people interested a way to invest with confidence. It will allow them to buy a quality product, verifiable, well-regulated certificates, so they can ensure their investments in protection and restoration have environmental benefits, and those benefits are long-lasting. The Nature Repair Scheme would include a public register of biodiversity certificates tracking their status and ownership. These integrity measures will ensure that if people are investing in repairing nature, they actually get the long-term benefits. We can't allow a sort of greenwashing. We see this on numerous projects that get government funding. We see this from time to time, that people put a flavour on things when it's not actually what really is happening on the ground. We want to ensure the benefits that are promised are actually realised. Let's be clear that while nature credits would be available for companies that need to offset unavoidable damage they cause to nature, for example, if they build mines or other developments, this is not the point of the program at all, in any way at all. It is not designed to be an offset scheme to give developers an opportunity to buy credits instead of protecting our natural environment. This is not an effort to make it easier to replace one bit of the natural environment with another bit of the natural environment. This is a way of getting additional private sector and philanthropic investment into nature. So we need to get the market design right. 10 years ago, the Australian Labor Government created the world's first national legislative scheme for accrediting carbon offset projects. Today, millions of dollars of these carbon credits are being traded each year, providing an extra income for farmers and landholders and lowering Australia's overall carbon emissions. Like all markets, there's an ongoing task to make sure the scheme is done with impeccable integrity. It's an important part of Australia's climate strategy and for our long-term path to zero emissions. The lesson is well-designed, well-functioning environmental markets, including using offsets, can be a powerful force for good and not evil. In contrast, a bad market can be worse than no market if it's poorly designed or under-regulated, or if it's created perverse incentives or it just greenwashes bad behaviour. So these schemes need to be built on solid ground, and that's in terms of timing. We hope the new scheme will be operating by next year, and that's why it's important we pass the foundational legislation now to allow all of that work to commence to set up the market and develop the methodologies. It's part of what we need to do to protect, restore and repair nature. And I know that personally from my electorate. We have been hit by major floods, 3 major floods since 2011. Bushfires around Linville in Moore, bushfires around Bundamba and Ripley Valley. We've seen the impact in my electorate of the ravages of nature. I've seen what floods can do in communities and how they can destroy whole families' livelihoods and prospects. And I see what the impact on the Lockyer Creek, the Bremer River, the Brisbane River and so many parts of my electorate. So I'm so optimistic about this legislation. I fully support it and I commend it to the House.
The question is that the amendment be disagreed to, and I call the Honourable Minister.
Thank you.